Hi everyone, welcome to our channel, Rebecca Stew and the crew. Today we have some new Dollar Tree spring DIY ideas. Let's go over the supplies for the first craft today. We'll need one of these flowered wreaths, two beaded wreaths, some berry garland, and flowers of your choice. We'll also need some floral wire, some pliers, we'll need some hot glue, and some scissors. So let's get crafty. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to remove the twine hanger off of this wreath, and we'll put that aside. We'll use it later. We'll also remove the flowers. They're held on by 3 staples. You just want to pull those out and then keep the flowers together. They're connected with a little wire in the back. And we're just going to be using this base to make it a little bit more sturdy and make it easier to attach the ears. You could actually make this without this wreath, but if you have it or can find it, it's a lot easier. Taking your pliers, you want to open up your beaded wreath and just get one of the tabs flat or as flat as you can get it, so you can remove 3 of the wood beads. Hold on to those. You can use those in a different craft. And what we'll do is we'll take the pliers and we'll recreate the loop that we opened up. It's going to be a little bit longer, but it shouldn't get in the way. And then we'll attach the 2 loops together and squeeze in with your pliers to close the ends. Now it's small enough to fit on that base that we started with. Take some floral wire. You'll want a few inches. Now what you're going to do is fish that wire through those little loops that you have on your beaded wreath, and then use the rest of the wire to wrap it around the base form that we're using and tie that nice and tight and cut off the ends. Then what you'll do is you'll add another piece of wire to the bottom, and then the 2 sides you're basically making two with the one at the top, one at the bottom, and one on the left and one on the right. And put a little dab of hot glue over top of the wire so it doesn't scratch your wall or your window. Then we'll take our second beaded wreath and we're going to open up the tab and then fold it flat. And what we'll do is we'll take the whole wreath and we'll fold it in 2 and then pull down on the sides to create these loops, which will be the ears to our bunny. Now we'll fish a wire through the bead in the center. We'll tie that off and then use that to attach the ears to the very center of the wreath using the same piece of wire that you fished through the bead on the center of the ears. So that'll start to help hold it in place. Make sure you get it nice and tight. And then you're going to take some more wire and fish it through the loop at the bottom of the beaded earpiece that you made. And make sure you count down so you put the ears in the same spot. I went about 7 beads down. Then I take the wire and I go underneath of the beaded wire, not the base form. I'm using the wire that the beads are on to connect the ears. The center is connected to the beaded wreath and the base. Then go ahead and cut off the excess and tuck the wire down into the beads. Now taking those flowers we had earlier in the hanger we removed, we'll just take that twine piece and tie it on our flowers right in the center. I said a simple knot, and then you can attach the flowers right to the center where the ears and the wreath connect and just tie it on with your twine. Once you have it in place, you can go ahead and add a little bit of hot glue to glue the flowers to the beads to help hold them in place. Then I add some more of my own flowers that I had on hand. I like these are little white flowers and these soft pale pink flowers. I just kind of tuck them in and fill in the floral part until I have it the way I like it. And that is it. It's a very simple craft, but so fun and easy when it's done and beautiful for Easter. So now the supplies for our second DIY. We need one of these wood signs, some yarn, and some flowers. We're also going to need some scissors and some hot glue. This is a very simple craft. You can make this in about 10 or 15 minutes. So all you're going to do is take your yarn and you're going to tie it off in the center of your sign and then start wrapping the yarn, keeping it as flat as you can. Just keep pushing the yarn next to the last piece you wrapped around. What I'm doing is I'm basically filling in that center portion. So you see the lines where the palette pieces come together. I thought it was about the perfect size to fill in most of that center portion. And that will help me keep the lines straight and also kind of help me figure out exactly how wide I want to make this so it looks nice in the center of the sign. So I just keep pinching the pieces of yarn together. I still want to keep it pretty flat, and I ended up doing 2 layers. And then I take some yarn and I go in the opposite direction, but up towards the top to create this cross pattern. In this direction, I want to get the yarn to be about the same width as the yarn we have going in the other direction. It's about 1.5 inches, maybe almost 2 inches. You want to do the same with the yarn going this direction. You can go ahead and do 2 layers. It actually works out better if you have it a little bit thicker. So we'll cut the excess yarn off that we don't need and tie the end off just with the knot. If you want to, you can add some hot glue to the end of the knot to make sure it doesn't come unraveled. Once we have that tied off, you can go ahead and cut off any excess. And now to make it easier to slip the yarn underneath of our cross here, we're going to take a piece of wire and make basically a needle. So I'm just folding the end over to create the eye of a needle. And then I'll take a long piece of yarn. I'll tuck it through that little loop and then take the wire to fish the string or the yarn underneath of all of those loops that we created. And we're basically going in the diagonal underneath of all of the yarn. And then we're going to tie this off. This is why you really want to make sure that the yarn is completely underneath of all of those loops. So tie your first piece off, go ahead and cut it and then get a new piece of yarn. And we'll go the opposite direction with the next piece. And again, we're just going to tie this off, creating an X pattern. Once you have it all tied off as tight as you would like it to be, go ahead and cut off all those extra strings. As you can see, we're working with yarn, so I have my little helper. Loves to play with the yarn. Okay, so now take your fingers or that little wire piece that you were working with and use it to help spread out the ends of the yarn just to make sure that they're equal on both sides and the top and the bottom. You can even spread it out to make them a little bit wider just to make it a little bit more decorative. Okay, now we can start decorating this, which is very simple. I'm just going to take some floral pieces. I had these real small roses that I got at the Dollar Tree that have these little white pieces attached to some of the greenery that was in the bundle. And so I just pulled off some of the floral pieces, the greenery with the white ends. I create basically an X pattern. I take one of the small rose buds and I'll glue that right to the center using hot glue. Then I have these small little pink rose buds and I'll tuck these underneath of the larger rose on either side. And I do a few more at the top and the bottom. And I really just wanted a little tiny bit here. I didn't want too many flowers. I felt like less was more here. This very soft, delicate flower in the center of the cross. That's our second DIY. Our third DIY, we need some wired ribbon. We're going to use 2 different colors. We need a foam cone, a small foam bunny. We need some flowers and some greenery. We're also going to use the berry garland again, some twine, nautical rope. We're also going to use a wood slice, some paint, and a paintbrush. We'll need hot glue and scissors. So let's get crafty with our third and final project today. We'll take the nautical rope and we're going to untwist it. There's actually 3 strands here. We'll use pretty much all of it. I'd already used some of this rope, so it's not a full amount that you usually get in the package, but it's plenty for what I need to use here. So what we're going to do once we unwind all the rope, we're going to actually take some hot glue and twist the ends. And then I trim up the end, making it nice and flat, and add some hot glue to the very tippy top to hold all of those strands of the rope together. And I'll do this for all 6 ends of rope. so that it's ready to go when I'm ready to put it on the cone, and I won't have to stop and fix the yarn once I get ready for my next piece. So then take a little bit of hot glue, put that on your rope, and start wrapping it around your cone. I started at the narrow end and work my way up to the top. And I just add a little bit of glue at a time and slowly work my way around the cone. And I have a high temperature glue gun, but it also has a low setting. So I have mine set down to the lower setting. If you have just the high setting, you'll want to wait a second before you attach the rope to the cone because you don't want to melt it. You really want to keep this shape. As you can see, as I get a little higher up, I'm actually putting most of the hot glue on the rope, and then I pull the rope on top of the next piece, and see how it comes untwisted or unwound a little bit. You'll want to twist the rope as you're gluing it down. So I just kind of grab it, I give it a twist, and then I lay it down on the rope below it. And once you get just a few strands in or a few rotations in, you really are just sticking the rope to the last piece that you put on the cone. You're putting very little glue on the cone itself. It's mainly on the rope, and that's holding the whole thing together and help holding it to the cone because you're wrapping it nice and tight, and it just kind of sticks that way. Then you don't really have to worry about the cone melting under that hot glue. We keep working in this way all the way to the top, and then just keep going in your spiral. Once you run out of a piece of rope, just layer it and go on to the next portion. And you won't really be able to see those little spots where you started a new strand. So I also have a little hole poked in the very tippy top of this cone. I just used the end of my scissor to create a hole. So when I go to put the greenery in later, it'll be a lot easier to get the greenery down into the cone. Even with the rope being there, just take some scissors and I tuck the little end down in. And if you want to, you can go ahead and poke your scissor down in the middle here again, just to make sure you can get your greenery down in the center. So here's what it looks like so far. And now we'll take that piece of greenery. It's just a nice big full piece that Dollar Tree sold um, just recently. And I just love it so much. It's so nice and full. It looks like something you get at the craft store. And we're just going to take some hot glue and force it down into that hole and then pop that greenery right down into the center of the carrot. Now we'll take some of that wired ribbon and about a 12-inch loop. We're going to take another piece of the burlap ribbon with the lace down the center, the same size. Just center it, and then we'll make a loop. Put a little dot of hot glue to hold it all together. And then we'll take some twine and tie it off in a knot right in the center as well. Now, at first I was going to leave the bow just like this, and then I decided to cut the ends. I really didn't care for it. It was a little bit too long once I started putting it together, so I wish I would have made it just a tad shorter. So I'm going to cut it here in just a second, but we're going to take another piece of that ribbon and we're going to fold it in three and create a center for the bow. So we'll just add some hot glue and wrap that piece around the center. You'll have to cut off the excess if it's too long. And make sure you hold it in place. I let go before it was dry and mine popped open. So I had to go back and put another little dot of hot glue to help keep it closed. So then I took some of that berry garland. You could wrap it around like the end of a paintbrush. You can use a pencil or a pen and just create this little curly cute pattern. And then if it's too long, go ahead and cut some of it down. You don't want it longer than the bow, but you'll need two pieces to create this really cute little X pattern. And then we'll tie that to the center of the bow using some twine. And this time I used a long enough piece of twine that I'll be able to attach the bow to the carrot. So you want to make sure you have it a little bit long so you can use it to tie off the ends. Okay, so then we'll take our scissors and we're going to fold the ends of the ribbon in, and then we'll cut at an angle. And we'll do this on both sides. Like I said, I cut the ribbon a little bit long And I wanted it to be a little bit shorter, it just would fit the project better than what it was. And I just fluff up the bow and just kind of move it around. It's wired, so it's easy to adjust. And you can adjust it again after you get it onto the carrot. Okay, so then we'll take that twine ends that we have wrapped around the bow, and we're just going to wrap it around the base of the greenery. And then kind of get it where you want it to be. Make sure it's the right size. And then go ahead and just tie it around the base here. Once you get it tied on, I just used a double knot. Then you can cut the excess twine off. Go ahead and get rid of that. And then when you flip it back over, if the bow isn't sitting quite right, once you fluff it up, you can add a little bit of glue to help hold it in place if you need to. But here's what our carrot looks like so far. Now we'll take some hot glue and put it on that wood slice base. Let it cool down just for a second before we glue it to the foam. And then we'll hold the carrot in place until it dries to make sure it stands up. Now taking our little foam bunny that Dollar Tree sells, they come in a pack of like 6 for $1.25. You'll just put a light coat of paint, or you can leave it as is. You can cover them with glitter. You can really do anything you want here. And then we'll let that dry. While it's drying, we'll start adding some flowers to the base. This just helps a little bit of the hot glue, any uneven pieces of rope from when we first started the project. And then we'll take a little bit of the leaves that came on the flowers. We'll add that to the base. Just add a little bit. Always kind of step back from your project and take a look as you go to make sure that you're not adding too much. Then we'll go ahead and glue our bunny on now that he's dry. I glued him into the little leaf setting there to make it look like he was kind of hiding out. And then we'll take one more flower and we'll tuck it down behind the leaves that the bunny is sitting on. I just kind of push it way down in the back behind him. And that just helped decorate the base a little bit. And I just love this little bunny next to the super large carrot. It's really cute. It's a fun addition to our spring decor this year. I just love how this turned out. Our little bunny wreath and our cross picture. I hope you guys enjoyed learning how to make these crafts with me today. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. And here are some other videos from our channel you might also enjoy. Have a lovely day, and I'll see you next time.